All right. I am with Chichi Ncera. Right?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay, okay, Chichi is, let me not put in a description on our relationships, but acquaintance of mine. We've worked a lot in many things, and it's a privilege to have you. And please just introduce yourself.
Thank you. As you've said, I'm Chichi Ncera, and I'm relatively a local girl. I come from Plettenberg Bay, and I'm fully based in Cape Town, and I'm your acquaintance.
Yeah. So we're going to be chatting about all things law again, and your kind of law is a bit different from the guest that I had earlier on.
Yes.
He was a defense
Advocate, I think.
Is it defense? Is the one that defends
Yes.
people who are? Is it defense, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. So I had a defense guy, right? So I just want you to just maybe just to unpack what you do exactly. Then we can just get into the gist of it. What you do.
So I'm an admitted attorney, and I've been in practice for close to 7 years now. I studied a law degree, graduated, and then I did my lawyer training. And after that, I wrote exams, and then I went and did my oath affirmation in 2018. And I'm actually a corporate lawyer. So basically, it's different from, I would say, it's different from criminal law. It's different from administrative law. Corporate law is basically the law that regulates entities or companies, how they are formed, how they are managed, how they function. And it also regulates the rights and relationships of the people that own and manage them. So in a nutshell, I would say that's what I do.
Beautiful stuff. Let's start from the beginning. When did you start loving law?
Yeah, so I was a waitress for about 7 years when I was a teenager. So one time I had a night shift and I picked up a book at this restaurant where I used to work in. It was a book written by John Grisham. Many legal readers will know him, John Grisham. And after reading that book, I fell in love with just the legal industry and how things were done. I fell in love with litigation at the time. So that was around 2006, 2007. And it was exactly the right time for me to apply to university to study law. So that's when I fell in love with the legal profession altogether.
Was it a book or was it an article?
It was a book.
Book.
Yes, The Testament.
Okay, it's called The Testament.
It's called The Testament.
Nice.
Yeah.
What is it about?
Oh my gosh, it was about this rich guy who had, I think he had around 3 to 4 wives. He had a few wives, he had a few children, so none of them were grateful. And so what he had done, he drafted a will which made little to no sense because he had many tasks and challenges for his children in order for them to inherit. So what he did, he made an agreement with his butler to say, okay, fine, this is what I want to do. I'm going to kill myself, but this is the will. You must make sure that they go through these challenges and these steps in order for them to get something from the estate.
Beautiful.
And so obviously the first thing that the kids would want to do is to run to court and to fight the will and say, this doesn't make sense. He had lost his mind. He was not okay by that time. I mean, look, he killed himself and all of that. But I fell in love with the legal profession through that.
The reason I'm saying beautiful, I'm not sure if you have watched Knives Out.
No, I haven't.
I'll plug you out with the Knives Out. Check Knives Out. Similar storyline. It's called Knives Out. One of my favorite movies because of how it engages you in terms of the storyline.
Exactly.
Finding different characters, all the different children, they have different characters.
Hectic.
And they're kind of like fighting towards getting this inheritance.
Wow.
It's something similar to that.
there's a high possibility that it might be the
spin-off.
yeah,
Yeah,
high
definitely.
possibility. Yeah.
Yes, it's a very nice movie. So that sparked you wanting to do law,
Absolutely.
and so when you started, so you applied for law now, right?
Yeah.
Through your, maybe describe your journey when you're studying law. What is it that stood out? What was a big shocker? You're like, hey,
It was very emotional. It was absolutely very emotional. Yeah, so I got in. So when I went in thinking that I'm going to be this big human rights lawyer. I'm going to work for the UN. I'm going to fight for people's rights, the children in Somalia, all of that. So I was all about that when I started. So I get in, and I did get a bit of a culture shock because I come from a small town, and most of the people that I went to school with looked like me, basically. So it was a bit of a culture shock because there were different people. There were old people in my class. There were old, like grannies and grandpas in my class, and it didn't make sense. It didn't make no sense for me. So there was a culture shock for that. And then after some time, I think in my third year of studies, I started studying company law.
Okay.
And I remember my first the second lecture for company law, where I was just blown away. And I decided, I was like, there's no way that I'm going to be a human rights lawyer when I can do this for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
It's even how the lecturer taught it. It was just so amazing to know that, you can have a company as a client. It's less dramatic. It's less dramatic. And so I fell in love with company law from that time. I remember I used to study company law every single day. Like every time I would go back home, revise the notes. So I would always get distinctions for company law. But then obviously through that, some of my other modules did kind of struggle, but that was really amazing for me. And then towards the end, I think when I was getting close to graduation, I would have wanted to do my lawyer training at a nice corporate niche law firm, like a nice Big Five, Cliff Decker Hoffman or something. But then, unfortunately, I didn't get an opportunity to go there. So I had to go and do my articles with the law clinic that NMMU was running at the time. And
it's NMMU,
Nelson Mandela.
Oh,
Nelson Mandela University now. At the time, it was Nelson Mandela Metropolitan University.
You're exposing yourself. Yeah.
So for 2 years, I had to practice mostly divorce law, and it was very interesting because there you have clients and you have drama.
So it's like a July 9.
I'm telling you.
The stay there.
Yeah, it's very interesting dealing with divorce clients.
And then how was that, the divorce law and all the stuff?
It's very interesting. It kind of scars you when it comes to marriage. Like it takes you really taking time to unlearn all the things that you learn about how bad marriage is. I remember there was this one court case, right? So basically, this is what happens, right? If you are married in community of property, it means everything belongs to the couple. You have a joint estate. However, there are some exceptional circumstances where, in a divorce case where people have been married in community of property, the judge will order that someone forfeits their portion.
Okay.
In the joint estate.
So it's like the wife can just take a house because she has children and something.
Or the person gets nothing. Basically, they say, look, one person gets everything and the other person gets nothing. But it's exceptional circumstances, right?
Sure.
I think it's Section 9 of the Divorce Act. I remember it correctly. So basically, in the law clinic, how we had our team, we had 2 professional attorneys, and then the rest of the team were us trainee attorneys, basically candidate attorneys. So this is a matter that my boss had been preparing for months.
Okay.
And the husband, the other party, had been trying to get forfeiture, had been trying to make sure that his wife walks away with nothing, right? So
you guys, who were you representing?
We were representing the wife.
Okay, the wife.
The
Okay,
wife, yeah.
okay.
It's free legal services, but it's good because the community gets to get the legal services. They're appropriately supervised. It's not like they just throw you in the pool
The
where
deep
you have
end,
to
yeah.
like, you know. So anyway, fine. We're representing the wife. The
So
husband.
you were doing the litigation.
Yes. So for
Okay.
2 years litigation, and I did
Okay.
not like it.
Oh,
I did not like it.
Sure.
But anyway, now for some reason my boss wasn't able to attend the case. So now I was the only person who was in my second year, and they told me that you have to take the case. The other side does not want to postpone. You have to take the case. You have to go and represent this lady, and then the other guy, the husband, says, I want her to get nothing. We've been married for 4 years. There's infidelity.
From the wife's side.
From the wife's side.
Okay.
And she has not contributed income. So it's pretty much usually those three factors that they look at.
Sure.
And this is a marriage in commutation of property. You would think that it would be 50-50. So obviously my boss had prepared. He was ready. And this lady was sold on the fact that she's going to walk away with something. So we get there, and I was looking like a wet puppy because I'm thinking I don't really know what I'm getting myself into. And the other attorney is a lady who only does divorces in her firm. Nothing else. Nothing else.
So you're working with a master here.
She's a master, right? So we get there. We get to the magistrate's office, and then
how do you feel in that situation? Do you kind of like talk? Because I remember I even asked the other gentleman,
Sure.
GK, when he came here,
Sure.
right? That lawyers are like friends. Like when you're working in front of the judge, it's work. But after that, you can just go and talk. And how's the relationship with her before and after and during the whole?
I think she's so amazing. I look up to her because she
Sure.
showed me flames. She showed
Sure.
me flames. I look up to her. I think that was the day that I learned that litigation is not necessarily my strength,
Okay.
because clients are very unpredictable as well.
Okay.
So the long and the short of it is the lady ended up walking away with nothing.
So if we were to explain it maybe in detail, like how was it like you standing there for the first time?
Sure.
Was it your first time?
No, it wasn't. I had been to court. I had been to court more than a year before that. So in your first year, you can attend to district court, which is basically the lower court. You can go and do a civil case. Maybe
And you're doing
20,000
litigation?
Yeah, litigation.
Okay.
Litigation. So I had been to court.
Oh, by the way, litigation, for those who don't know, but litigation is that process when you speak directly to the judge and you represent your client.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that it was called litigation.
Yeah.
So just for someone who wants to know what litigation is, yeah.
Yeah, it's called litigation.
Sure.
And
So you actually do litigation in your first year or first year
of training.
after graduate or
Yeah.
first year of training?
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, which is first year after graduation.
Okay.
So you have to go because how are you going to learn? So
Sure.
in our first year of graduation, we do evictions, just the smaller courts.
Because I think it's what I want you to do, right? I want you to finish up with this story. Then maybe we can just jump backwards to like maybe your first litigation. How was it, and explaining all of this.
Sure.
Yeah. So you still explain that. Okay. So this. What did I think about this word? This whipping that you got from this lady, right? How? If you describe it in detail, how did that make you feel? Like you said, for you, it's like you also inspired it.
Absolutely.
So what brought inspiration from it? You can just explain that part.
I think it's how she was so gracious about it. She wasn't hostile at all, but I knew that I was losing it. I was losing the matter. I remember there was a time when
maybe to also explain the what's the word? the character, like what kind of a husband was he, what kind of a lady was she, just to paint a very nice picture. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So that guy. So this guy, this couple, they met, I think, when they were in high school or something. The guy decided to further his education. The lady didn't. So he went to, I think, East London to go study, and then he came back. And we were based in PE, by the way. So he came back, they got married. The mother-in-law didn't like her, but she was doing nothing. She wasn't working. She was at home. I think she was selling Tupperware or something like that. And then obviously the guy he became a teacher, and he became like a senior teacher. So his provident fund was growing nicely. He was making an income. He had a house. So the husband was doing much better than the lady was, but the lady wasn't. And he was relatively hostile. Like I think at some point he started looking down at her, I would say, because obviously I think at some point it got to the point where she didn't have much to contribute. I just think as a person, irrespective of like the financial side of it, just as a person, she didn't have much to contribute to this new person that he had become. So he was not paying attention to her, and then someone else paid attention, right?
So that's kind of situation.
Yeah, so someone else paid attention to her, and then, I think he wanted out, and he wanted to make her feel pain in him walking out. So he was not a great witness. Even I kind of had to like breathe when I was talking to him, because it's like if I would ask him a question, I could feel him like talking down to me as he's answering, because now it was time for me to do cross-examination, and he looked at his lawyer as if I'm not asking like a valid question. So he wasn't a great person, but he had a great lawyer. He had a great lawyer, and my client had someone who learned many good lessons on that day. But I think the most interesting part of the story is that I had 3 of my colleagues who were also candidate attorneys sitting with me in court. It was empty, luckily.
Okay.
It was empty, but all of them were sitting there. We were just sitting there like puppies. And so now they're just about to grant the order. And so I just requested that because he was actually paying maintenance for her. She'd moved out, and he was paying maintenance for her.
Sure.
So just as they're finishing up, I just made a prayer. We'll call it a prayer. I made a prayer that he at least pays maintenance for 6 to 12 months. For a period of 6 to 12 months, just as she's adjusting to the situation. And then this is something that this other attorney had not mentioned in her closing arguments and all of that. But then she objected to it. She's like, there's absolutely no way. And then obviously I gave her a good reminder, but I lost that case. Like, it was a complete blunder. My client walked away with nothing. They granted forfeiture. And I think that's why I even remember that it's Section 9 of the Divorce Act, because it was beautifully done, I think.
So in that case, where you this is not to bash on you, right, or anything, right? In a case where you are put into a situation like that, you are a junior and you're working with someone who's so good with that, doesn't that guarantee like a loss in a sense?
Absolutely.
That does it.
It does.
And then how does that affect the client? Because now,
look, it was relatively malicious. I think what I did actually forget to mention is when we entered into the office, right, with the magistrate, the other attorney offered. They said they're offering a particular amount. So that we can settle this matter. So I was like, can you allow me to go and present this amount to my client? So I went and I spoke to her and I said, ma'am.
Can you disclose it?
The amount? Sure, I think I can.
Okay, sure.
I think I can. So I think the guy had around 500,000 Rand in his provident fund or whatever. So he offered her 200. He'd offered her 200K.
Sure. Which is almost half.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean that's not all of his assets, but because the client had not, like, our client had literally should not worked. The only thing she'd ever done was to marry him, unfortunately. So I spoke to her, then she said, no, I was told that I'm going to get 50%. So I said to her, ma'am, this is what they're asking for, and this is why they're asking for it. When I looked at your file, I wasn't able to see, I was not able to see anything that shows that you've contributed. We've got a short period of marriage here, and there's allegations of infidelity, and there's SMSs that were like printed and put in the file.
My God.
You know?
So there was evidence.
There was evidence.
Oh my God.
You know, so I had spoken to her about that, and then she had said that, no, your boss said I'm going to get 50%. Obviously, I don't doubt that my boss would have most probably
been able to do that.
But I believe my boss would have been able to settle or to get her to settle, right? So
which is what you're also trying to push.
Yeah, so that's what they offered, right? And then she was like, no.
So if we were trying to chop it down between me and you, right? Was that greed on her side?
No.
It wasn't?
Yeah, no.
Why do you say that?
It wasn't, man. I think that it was just an unfortunate situation. She could have done better with the 200K, but I'm not really sure what were the discussions that she would have had with my boss to make her believe so much that she was going to get 50%.
Because it's only, 500, 250, so it's 50,000 different.
Of the Provident Fund, except the other assets. But I mean, the other assets she didn't really.
Also, was it 50 of?
It was 500K of the Provident Fund, and then there was a house and a car.
So your boss at the time promised 50% of everything,
which is basically
that's what community of poverty
is. It's what the law is.
Yes,
what the law is. I believe. I know my boss. I know he would not necessarily promise something that he would not deliver. I just think it was an unfortunate situation, but I learned.
You learned a lot. Yeah, I mean, it's quite interesting that my case would either, let's say, for example, if I'm going to a company and I say, okay, this is what my situation like this, and if the defendants, or I don't know, who's the attacker? What do they call them? Prosecutor. Prosecutor
is in the other podcast we had. Here it's plaintiff.
Oh, interesting stuff. So it's plaintiff, right? Yeah. Okay. So that way, at least you would think probably they'll come out with if I have a good lawyer, then in that case it makes sense. Okay, then good lawyers can get you.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
It's very interesting. So when you say you were inspired now, let's say we're just trying to close it. So what really inspired you from that?
Look, I think with that lady is she found one thing that she was good at, and she focused on it, and she did not compromise. You know, I have nothing against people that we call them GPs, general practitioners. They do all of those things. I have nothing against them. But I think it's very important to find your niche and excel in it, especially as a legal practitioner, because you want to provide the most...
going to be like expect in it.
Yeah, the best service. You want to provide the best service. So if you're a divorce lawyer, you're going to focus your time only on doing research on divorce matters, and you can truly sharpen that skill. So for me, it was like, it's not litigation, it's not divorce law.
So you were thrown into the lion's den.
I was. It was nice. I came out alive.
And the lions were not they were not shut. The mouth was not shut. Yeah.
I came out alive. I think, to be honest with you, one of the things that I can truly I patted myself on the back because I stood there. I didn't run away. I stood there. It was hot, but I stood there.
Yeah.
It was really hot. I stood there, and yeah. So it's one of the lessons that I learned, that in my life, if it's hot, I stand. I don't go.
Sure.
That's over.
That's very beautiful.
Yeah.
So let's go back to your first litigation. I think I'll just from here I'll also still go back because I want you to just give some light in terms of how law school work, and then just chop it down as well, so that this can help someone who's trying to get to where you're going. So how was your first litigation And is it something that you're looking forward to? Like it's like okay, yeah.
Yes.
This is what I've been waiting for.
Yes.
Are you excited or are you nervous? So how was that like?
I'd say half and half.
And also, just explain the case that you were working on and all that
For
detail.
For my first litigation.
Yes.
It was an eviction.
Okay.
And I actually won it.
Nice.
I got some wins along the way.
Sure.
So basically, a candidate attorney cannot go to court without a right of appearance. We call it a dompas, but it's a right of appearance.
Sure.
So once you register yourself with the body that is basically regulating legal practitioners in South Africa, you get your right of appearance that says this person is under this professional attorney, they are functioning in this particular institution, and they have appearance for this particular court. So evictions can be heard at district court. So basically, evictions are one of the worst types of cases you can have in South Africa. It's okay. Let me just quickly touch base on eviction law as a concept, right?
Sure.
Eviction law is difficult because it basically says to the owner of the property, we have hoops for you to jump through in order to have access to your property.
Okay.
Literally, that's what it says. And it's very difficult because you have to issue papers in 3 languages, and you have to, if you are dealing with kids and old people, you have to be part of the process of ensuring that these people will have alternative accommodation. But it's my property. What about my rights? Do you see what I mean? Cool. Got an eviction case. I've got my right of appearance laminated. And then, so fine. I went through the papers, and the beauty of it is that it was an application and not an action. So it wasn't a trial. So application is basically the fight is in the papers. Trial, the fight is in front of the judge.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the difference. So it was an eviction matter. So we'd already done the back and forth fighting with this situation.
So what was the situation like? Or who was being evicted?
Okay. So my clients had gotten a government house, but then for some reason...
It's like RDP. Okay, sure.
For some reason, the municipality reallocated the house to someone else because I think my clients hadn't picked up their phone maybe 3 times. So they reallocated the house to someone else. Now there's a title deed that obviously belongs to my clients. My clients can't get another house because on the system it shows that they've already been allocated a house, but then someone else is living in their house for years, for about 12 years at the time I got the case. They'd been living in that house. Cool. And they went to the people to say, Molweni, look, guys, this is our house. Can we try and handle it amicably? Yeah, next month. Yeah, next year. Give us some time. But that wasn't working. So they decided, you know what? Let's bring in the lawyers. They come to the law clinic where I worked. They had the papers drafted. I took over the case after the first papers were served. So it was basically a notice to say you are being evicted from this house, move out on this date, or we'll continue to take the matter further, right? People didn't move out. Papers were served. We did a back and forth on the papers because this is an application proceeding, and the bottom line for us and my clients was that this is our property. You are staying in it without authorization. You need to move out. We've given you more than enough time. This case has been going on for many years. So we get to court and...
So they also have their defendant lawyer?
Yes. They were using legal aid. So, yeah. So legal aid was sort of... I'm sorry, guys. If you're working for legal aid, I'm sorry. But legal aid were kind of the easy kids to beat.
Oh, okay.
They were easy to beat. So, legal aid were the defense. So we were the applicants and they were the respondents.
Sure,
so in application proceedings, you have applicant and respondent.
Sure.
We get there I present my case quickly. The papers have been served. Your worship, here we are. My client is the owner, as it is clearly stipulated in this exhibit. I thank you. Then the other guy gets up and he's talking back and forth. He was saying things like, the community doesn't want those guys to live there because these guys need the house and all of that. And then, so basically the presiding officer at the time, the magistrate, basically said, all the things that I would need to grant this order have been met. so I'm going to grant the order. May you please move out on at the end of this month. And then they left. So they left, and then we were left behind. And I was just telling my clients that, no, it's fine. We're going to talk to the sheriff to go and execute the order, get the people out and all of that. So the magistrate actually came, and he said to me that you might have won here, but it's very difficult. There's a high possibility that they're not going to move out still. This is what happens in eviction cases. You can win here in court, but then there's a whole other process of actually getting the people out.
Yeah.
Which is very difficult.
So do you involve police or?
Absolutely. So you start with the sheriff, and then if things get...
How does sheriff work? Because I think the sheriff, I've only seen that like in American movies. So
it's a whole different thing, yeah. So a sheriff is a court official. A sheriff is the person that's authorized to serve court documents or to execute court judgments.
Okay.
So if A is divorcing B, it's not necessarily a good idea for A to serve the divorce papers on B, irrespective of what happens on Movango.
Okay.
It's supposed to be the sheriff that serves the papers
so
that they can confirm that B was served with these court documents on a particular date.
This is where suits comes in.
Because that's important.
Sure.
I don't like suits.
Yeah, I don't understand why. Because you're not the only lawyer. You're not the only lawyer who said. Because I think the previous lawyer was like, no, I don't like suits. Yeah. And what was your reason behind not liking suits?
They romanticize it. It's not that fabulous. It's real life.
Okay, guys, go watch Suits. Leave these lawyers alone. Anyways, yeah. So you're saying that so the sheriff is the one who actually goes and issues that thing.
Yeah, they serve the papers.
Yes, the papers. Yes. Also, okay. So in that case, in your case, did they actually move out, or was it tough?
Interestingly enough, by the time I left the law clinic, I had just sent the papers to the sheriff, because these things, they are very tricky.
Sure.
Because the order was granted and then they were given time and they didn't move out. Mm-hmm. So now we have to get another order and they didn't move out. So now we have to serve the papers on the sheriff for them to make them move out. So it was a bit of a long, unnecessary process, but I had just sent the papers to the sheriff, and I left one of my friends there, and I asked her, I think it was probably a month or two ago, we were just laughing and catching up, and I asked her what happened to this case.
Sure.
She told me they had to sell the house because the people were not moving, which is a whole other drama on its own. They had to sell the house because the people were not moving. It was becoming hostile, and now the neighbors were also getting involved.
Sure.
Not wanting their neighbors to be kicked out of the house. South African law here.
Interesting stuff. By the way, that's love for you guys.
Hence why corporate.
Interesting stuff. I like that. I like that in terms of how we're different people, but we are so much good at different stuff. Like if I were to sit you down here, you can just chop corporate law, which we're gonna get to, right? In and out, right? Same thing with me, engineering. We can I can explain like certain things, and you're like, oh, okay, interesting. Like sitting down with the doctor, like these are different people who have different skills,
absolutely,
and that are making the world go round in a sense, right?
Yeah.
So it's just a beautiful sight just to think about, right? And then just going back to your studies, what makes you come out as a graduate? Because I think probably someone is studying now law, and the culture shock, whether it be culture shock of what law is, they feel like, okay, this is not basically what I want to do. What makes you go out on the other end of and graduate? Well, how did you do it in your personal story?
I'd say sacrifice. I sacrificed so many things in university. I'm not going to say I wouldn't go for a picnic or I wouldn't go to Spur, but most of the things that I could have enjoyed in varsity, I didn't. I barely slept. I barely slept. So there's like, if you can imagine three circles, right? 3 circles. You'll have study, you have play, and you have sleep. You can only choose 2.
Okay.
If you play and you sleep, then you don't study, you're going to fail.
Sure.
So there's only two of those circles that you can have. So if you want to play and study, then that means you don't sleep. So for me, it was sacrificed. I sacrificed friendships. I sacrificed relationships. I sacrificed sleep. I sacrificed just enjoying myself. So most of my varsity life had to do with me sitting and studying, unfortunately. That's what it means to be an attorney or a legal practitioner of any nature. We do not stop reading. You never stop reading. Even in your profession, you have to sit and you have to read. You have to proofread the work that you've just typed now. So it's all about sacrifice, I would say.
I would say that's a recurring theme with the lawyers, because even the GK. I should stop calling him the guy. Even GK, when he came here, GK Mhlanga, he's a lawyer as well. He talks about the same thing, that no man, this thing is like a lot, because I think right now he's doing his pupillage.
Nice.
Pupillage and the bar. He talked about the bar and all the stuff.
Yeah.
And the way he explains it is, even work is a lot of reading, is a lot of all of those things. And after work, you kind of like you have work because you have to prepare for the following day, for the next case and all the stuff. So for someone who doesn't know about that kind of sacrifice that you need to put in before you get into law, what kind of advice will you give them? Okay, this is what you're gonna be doing. This is gonna be your life. So just explaining like what your life looks like as a student. Then we can just jump into the corporate side.
Yeah, I think I never run out of coffee. I never ran out of coffee.
Sure.
So basically, being a law student and being a legal practitioner altogether, I think the beauty about our profession is that some of the qualities that we used in varsity, we can still use them now. You prepare and you revise. Prepare and revise, especially if you are not English or Afrikaans speaking. The work is not in your home language. So you obviously know the course layout is going to be provided that, okay, fine, for this term, we're focusing on damages. You know that, okay, fine, let me prepare and revise. Prepare and revise. So the work needs to continuously be in your mind, basically. I sound like I'm preaching, right? The work needs to continuously be in your mind, Prepare, sit down, read the work, see what specific questions you'll have in your mind, because at the end of the day, you need to understand the work in a way that you can also explain it to someone else.
Sure.
Try simplify it, prepare, revise. Prepare, revise. That's what I can say, I never ran out of coffee, and
so this is to keep you awake.
Yeah, to keep me awake. I never ran out of coffee. And don't be afraid to be alone as a law student. Some of our work requires group work and all of that, but there's a certain necessity of just solitude that is required for our profession. Silence is required for our profession. You need to sit down and read, and you can't be talking to people all the time. You need to sit down and read.
Yeah, so switch off your notifications and all those stuff.
Switch off your life. Your whole life.
She said life.
Your whole life. And I think also most importantly is character-wise, I would say. Character-wise, it gets very emotional. Because the work can be overwhelming. You need to know 5 cases for the law of delict, and then there's a different set of 5 cases for the law of contract, and there's another different there's another different set of cases for another module. It can be overwhelming, but you kind of need to have the character of, I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to quit. Just keep waking up. Just keep waking up. That's what I can say to a person that's going to study law. Like you have to go in knowing that it's going to be hard. It's not going to be easy. You're going to lose some friends. You're going to lose relationships, and you're going to need to like being alone. because that's when you can actually get the best of your study time, unfortunately.
It sounds like law is difficult more than engineering, eh?
I don't think so.
Really?
I highly doubt it. It could be because I'm used to the legal profession, because
Maybe it's because of
always
your
tell
love, but
engineers
I
that
don't don't see myself studying that hard.
Really?
I used to study hard, but I don't think to that extent. No ways. But I think maybe just to sum up, I think the one thing that I liked, some of the things that you mentioned there was the 3 circles. I love that. I love that. Yeah, because just choose 2.
Only
You can't
2
have
work.
you can't
Only
have
2.
all 3, and which is a very good thing to at least finish your work, right? As a student, right?
Yeah.
So so some of the things that I like asking is to at least help both a student and also someone who's actually starting work as at the corporate. So I think we're kind of touched on that, right? So I just want to go just before studying. You said you were working as a waitress. So how was that like, the transition? What inspired you to want to change, and what got you to work for 7 years? Because 7 years is a lot of years. Yeah.
Simple money. I like money.
Sure.
I started working at the age of 14.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I was 14, and it's because I wanted a pair of Puma Takis, and my mom said, I'm not going to buy those. If you want them, you're going to go get a job. Then I started working from then, and then I just became someone who loved just working and making money, especially. I enjoyed meeting different people. I was working for a Portuguese restaurant, and I would meet people from outside of South Africa. I've got this other couple from Canada that I kind of still talk to. So it was a very nice exposure to the world, basically, for me, because I'm stuck in a small town, but I'm meeting people from Joburg, Canada, France, Portugal, and all of that.
Sure.
So, I mean, with waitressing...
Did you say Portugal?
Yeah, Portugal.
Is the company that you're working for a Portuguese?
No, it's Spanish.
Oh, Spanish. I was like, what?
I work for a Spanish company.
Okay, interesting.
I love Europe so much.
Sure. I was like, okay, wait, what's happening here? So, okay, you can continue, yeah.
Yeah, so I would say, so look, in waitressing, you need to know the menu. You need to know how to explain which wine goes with what type of food. So for me, it's not necessarily a difference, but it's more like a level up. It seemed more like a level up, because I believe that it can be very complex for a young girl who's growing up in a small town to understand palettes and you see, I forgot some other terms that they use for it. It's like a palette, and then coating the glass and all of those things. So for me to understand those things, and then now you have to explain them to a client, you have to kind of draw a picture of that experience that they're going to have when they have the food with this particular wine. And then for me, coming into the legal profession, because you have so many sources that can be all over the place, but you need to combine everything and bring it into one, make it make sense. This is the legal question, this is the law, this is the case, and this is the conclusion. So for me, it was more of a level up rather than a transition. I think my waitressing experience is actually one of the best things that I have, one of the best qualities that I have for the profession now. Yeah, I would say.
I think it's beautiful because I think that lifestyle is not really prevalent amongst. I'm not speaking out of stats. It's just for those who are about to judge this statement I'm about to make. So I think it's not prevalent amongst black children.
Absolutely.
In the sense that go work. Do a day job, so after school you go and work, and you come back home, and I think so. You're saying that the best that you have learned, besides relating it to your work, how did it also help you generally in terms of what we're doing that job for this 7 years?
I think. I think working at that restaurant, that's when I started just having a connection with people from Europe. I don't know, it's like everywhere, like wherever I am, I have to have people from Europe just around in my life. But you know, it made it not scary to be in a place where there's a bunch of white males.
Sure.
You know, because when I became a waitress, so I was a runner for one season, one December season, and then the following one I became a waitress.
What is a runner?
A runner. A runner is like a non-waitress. I'm joking. A runner. A runner is a waitress's assistant. So a runner will clean up after the waitress. They make sure that the waitress has the cutlery. So we have to check, okay, fine, this table is going to have this kind of food. So they need fish knives, they need steak knives. Is the ashtray cleared? Are the glasses empty? So that's what a runner does. So you just kind of like a skivvy for a waitress. But I was that for one December season, and then the next season I became a waitress. So for me, how waitressing has helped me is that generally where I come from, Plato is a small town. It's like it's got surfers and all of that. You don't get to see a black empowered person. Sorry for saying that. Oh. You don't get to see a black empowered person, you know. So I was working with a few surfer guys. It was a bunch. It was like about six white males, literally 6 white males, 2 colored guys and 1 black guy. That was the waitressing team. So for me to actually be on the same level as those guys is something that has helped me now to be in the spaces that I'm in, because now I can be in a boardroom with people that don't necessarily look like me, and it doesn't feel uncomfortable, you know. So it helped me with that as well. It helped me understand that, you know what, people are just people.
That's very beautiful. There's a way that for those who believe in God, for those who believe in the universe, that it sets you up for where you want to be. It's like everything that, for me in a Christian point of view, is everything works together for the good.
100%.
So because you are at this place, like all the encounters that you're going to have in your life, they are going to be turned around to inform your future in a sense, and also speak to your future as well. I think it's a beautiful thing to find, because now you now it has made it easier for you to be in a room or in a boardroom. I think Chichi is a big shot, by the way. So we're gonna wow, she's a big shot. So we're gonna get into corporate law now, right? So what do you do in corporate law? I think you've explained it in a sense in the beginning. Yes, concept. Yeah. So what are you doing at your work day to day now?
So I am a legal advisor, and basically I'm going to be making jokes now and again. So I'm a legal advisor. I call myself the buzzkill of the company. Sure. So this is the thing. In my company, you have accountants, you have engineers, and you have HR, and you have lawyers, right? So there's going to be a particular decision that any of these other departments want to make. So one of the most important things for me to do is to look at that decision, sense check it, and see what are the risks, what are the legal risks of that decision, and then I advise the people that are intending to make that decision as to whether or not it's a good legal decision or it's a bad legal decision. So that's the most important thing I do. So decisions that are material to the company, they have to come via me. I fact check, I do a legal opinion, guys, we can do this, guys, we should not do this, or if we do this, let's rather consider this. Can we get an expert legal opinion on this? Can I ask that we get an expert legal opinion on this? Because I believe that we don't really understand all of the consequences that can come from it. So that's the work that I do.
Okay, so maybe bring in a scenario, maybe just paint a scenario in terms of this is what you're doing. That's if you can disclose some of the stuff, but without giving too much information. So maybe just give me, like, in terms of a scenario. Okay, let's say maybe like you were saying, because I see now you're speaking. I could hear what you're saying, but I feel like it was in codes.
Very vague.
It wasn't. Yeah. So maybe just try to paint without having to giving away too much.
Cool. Cool. Yeah. So basically, okay, in the corporate space, right? You have a company. We're going to call it ABC Pty Ltd.
Sure.
ABC Pty Ltd has its own legal existence. It is its own separate identity. However, ABC cannot act for itself. So ABC cannot hire people in itself and things of that nature. So what ABC does is it has directors. So these directors are going to be the officers that are acting for this ABC is going to be using the directors as its officials, and they're going to be acting on its behalf, right? Cool. We'll put that aside.
Yeah.
Then ABC Pty Ltd is also owned by someone or some people. It might be the same people as the directors, but let's say for this example, or for this story, for this story, it's owned by a different set of people,
sure.
right? These are the shareholders, right? So ABC Pty Ltd, there's specific decisions that shareholders can make, and there's specific decisions that directors can make. So cool. One of the managers of ABC says, guys, I found this amazing deal. We're going to be saving 20% on this big contract for the next 5 years. We were going to pay 2 million, but now we're paying so much less. Let's sign it. So the manager is going to come to me and they're going to talk to the directors and say, okay, look, we've got this decision. We need to make it. It's a good decision based on paper, right? But then I go through I will call them constitutional documents. So I went through, this is a story. I went through the constitutional documents of ABC, and I found that this particular decision needs to be made by the shareholders.
Oh, okay. Not the directors. Okay.
Which therefore means that the people that now have access to the information and the decision are not in a place to make a decision.
Okay.
The decision has to be made by the shareholders, and then they give the directors the go-ahead to say, okay, fine, you guys can sign, you can act on our behalf. Cool. The problem is that there was a specific delay. This is still a very good deal.
Sure.
It's in the best interests of the company for them to sign this. Fine. Now, the shareholders were sort of delaying in giving their approval because there's specific procedures in place. It has to go approval there, approval there, approval there. So what happened? One of my directors called an urgent meeting. He's like, we are signing. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, guys, we're not allowed to sign because we haven't gotten the approval that we need for this particular decision. And they're like, no, we're signing. They signed.
Okay.
And then after signing, they said, please prepare a legal opinion for us to make sure that this decision doesn't necessarily land us in trouble. Right. So basically, the true nature of a director's duty is that the director must always be acting in the best interest of the company. We said this is a good deal. This is a good contract, right? And the company is saving money for 5 years, but they haven't gotten the approval. So in terms of factually, it makes sense, but procedurally, it's not correct. So I sat down and I had to draft a legal opinion in terms of which I needed to make sure that in as much as these guys acted, obviously it's not me changing things, but I needed to look for the right information, the right cases to present now to the shareholders and say, let's not penalize these guys, number one. These are the cases, it's happened before. So what we ended up doing there is that because this decision was in the best interest of the company, in as much as they kind of they actually fully fledged, they jumped the gun, it was still in the best interest of the company. The shareholders were able to ratify the decision, which is basically approving something that has already been done, like approving a step that had already been taken. So it's something of that nature. So I had to sit down now and I had to say, okay, fine, these are the facts. What's happening? These are the facts. It was supposed to happen like this. It didn't happen that way. How can we bring it back to compliance? So we acted out of compliance, but now my work was to say, how can we bring it back to compliance?
So in a nutshell, just to understand what you do, right, is you make sure that the company does things which they won't land themselves in hot water, and vice versa.
Yeah.
Them giving someone else money or whatever.
Yeah.
In
And
a sense.
if we end up crossing the line, I need to
Find a way.
Yeah, I need to just. We need. It's not shady. It's not underhanded. But look, the law is black and white, but there are some gray areas. That's why we need lawyers. If the law was black and white, then people would be able to function.
Sure.
But there's gray areas. That's why we need lawyers so that we can realign. So we had to do an additional process now, which was to ratify the decision. So the shareholders were saying that. So in those documents, it was like properly stated that these guys have done this. They've signed this agreement on this day without our approval. We agree that it was in the best interest of the company. The only reason why we had not yet approved was because of specific delays. And now that decision has been regularized, I'd say. So it's something, it's things like that, you know. Because directors are saying, like, guys, let's get it done. Let's do it's money. It's a good contract. And really, it's their duty to do that. But I'm like, guys, no, wait. And then they were like, no, we don't have time. We're going across. So now I still have to come in now and kind of like put everyone together and say this let's regularize the decision. So it's pretty much more or less something like that. I've had to so if a company ABC Pty Ltd again. So a company has authorized shares and they have issued shares. Authorized shares is the amount that they are legally allowed to issue out.
Okay.
Issued shares are the ones they've issued. So I think 3 or 4 of my companies, I've got around 13 companies that I'm managing. So about 3 or 4 of them had, I think just because of administration, they had issued shares that are above their authorized shares. It's not as easy as just correcting it. There's like legal procedures in place. We have to sign resolutions. We have to talk to shareholders and say, okay, this is what we are doing.
They've given you too much money, yeah.
Yeah. Basically, yeah. So we had to do a whole regularization process of explaining to the shareholders that, first of all, we need to amend the MOI. We need to give the company more capacity to issue the shares. We've issued 1,000, but the company only has 500 capacity. So we need to increase the capacity, which is amending the whole constitutional documents.
It sounds very interesting. And it's something I wanted to say something that I would do, but yeah, it's definitely something that I would like to do.
Really?
Yeah, just working around with like different companies and
it's great.
Yeah, it sounds like a very fun. Like work when it's being described by someone, it sounds like, oh yeah, it looks like, yeah, I can come up with some words and but yeah, when you get in there, so I think since we both know that half past is about to hit now, so maybe
Run through.
let's talk to you about your work, your consulting company, right? So at least I think it will be better to just at least finish with that.
Sure.
Then whenever we get our chance, then we can just also bring other stuff.
Great.
So what is your company about and what do you do?
Yeah, so Ncera Consolidated Consulting, incorporated in 2018. We are a business consulting company, I'll say. I mainly offer secretarial services. Secretarial services is not necessarily PA, but secretarial services is a portion of the work that I already do. So it would be to administer the director's decisions, administer the shareholders' decisions. It would be I don't really register companies anymore because now it's a self-service portal. You can just do it yourself.
Okay.
But it would be if one company wants to sell shares to other people, we handle that process for you. We transfer the shares for you. We draft the shareholders' agreements. So we handle things of that nature as well. And we also handle company tribunal administration as well. If a person has an application with the company tribunal, unfortunately...
What is tribunal?
So I'm going to try and be quick.
No, don't worry. We'll make it.
I'll try and be quick. So basically, Companies Tribunal is the forum or the place where a person can go if they believe that there's specific regulations in the Companies Act that are not fair for their business. So one of my clients, I had 3 clients which were similar, and all 3 of them were required to have a social and ethics committee. Social and ethics committee is basically a committee that ensures that a company's social citizenship is in order. Are they doing community outreach programs and things of that nature, right? So fine. And so all of them were required to do that. These are companies that are identical. So one of my main argument was that these companies are working for the government. They don't have any other customers. And because they're working for the government has said that this is the percentage of the profits that must go to the community. So the social existence or the social citizenship of this company is taken care of. We don't need an additional committee that's going to sit for long meetings, because it's clear the government has said this percentage of the profit must go to the community. So we don't need to carry that out. The weird thing is that of these 3 companies, identical, literally identical. 2 were given an exemption by the Companies Tribunal and 1 wasn't. So I had to go back and reapply and say, we don't understand how it is that 1 passed and then the 1 failed and the other 2 passed. So the Companies Tribunal is like, it's a court to an extent for the Companies Act, where you say these regulations are unfair because of A, B, and C. They shouldn't apply to this company. So we also handle that at Ncera ConCon. And we are coming very, very close to doing BE verifications. BE verifications is what we will do for companies that make more than 10 million per year. Obviously, the ones that make less will be able to get an affidavit. People who need to know this know this.
Yeah, sure. I mean, yes, so, speak to your people. Yeah.
So we're in the process of getting that out, basically just to ensure that companies that want to work with the state have their BE certificates up to date. We also do consumer data. So what is it? CSD.
Consumer debt support.
Yeah, consumer supplier. State consumer supplier database. Basically, the companies that are working with the government have to be on a specific platform. So we help companies that want to tender to the government register on CSD, Central Supplier Database. Yes.
Okay.
So we help them register there, and yeah, I mean, I do have a company that I outsource to when it comes to tax matters, because I don't do tax matters. I'm not going to try. But I do have a guy that I outsource to. Yeah, I outsource
collaboration.
To. Yeah. So that's what we do at Ncera ConCon. It's my baby. It's a growing baby.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah.
And then there's money there?
Yes, there is. I've got 1 constant client. I mean, it's not millions, but it's money. It's something.
Yeah.
It's something. I've got 1 very good client. They are in organic peanut butter, and they've been doing quite a lot of work. So I've been drafting contracts like crazy, not sleeping, but that's who I am. So it works. It gets there. And there's a lot of, what I like about Ncera ConCon is that it simplifies business solutions, It simplifies business solutions. My logo is Smart Business Solutions. It simplifies business solutions because there's a lot of young people that want to enter into business, and they want to make sure that in their collaborations, each one of their rights is protected. And I don't think they should go to an attorney and pay a lot of money when they can get smart, simple business solutions from me. So there's been a lot of that. There's been a lot of collaborations. There's been a lot of joint ventures. So it's okay. We're doing okay.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I think maybe the last question before we close, right, is
Sure.
How do you set up yourself so that you get money, good money, as you're working? Because for me, I always want to talk about the conversation about money, because sometimes I don't know how lawyers feel when they get to work, like to get money, like, yeah, this this is what I need to give. You understand? But most engineers that I know, some of them, they're like, no.
You don't want to talk about money?
No, they not necessarily not talk about money, but the money that you get, you thought it's not even close to what you thought you want to have. So how do you set yourself...
Salary-wise,
yes.
Cool.
So how do you set yourself up in order to get the most out of maybe corporate law, or if you can touch about basically everything, you can also do that in 1 minute.
1 minute. Hectic. So, look, to be honest with you, when I accepted this job with this company that I work for, I was overqualified. But I worked myself silly. I made myself an asset. I became one of the most valuable team members. And from there, so for me, it was about building work ethic and making sure that everyone knows my work ethic. If it's a contract and it's required at 10 p.m., it's coming. I didn't have human rights there. I didn't care that my labor rights and all of that, they are being unfair. I didn't care about that because at that time I was building my work ethic. So if you are entering the profession, any profession, build work ethic, be the most valuable team member, and anyone will be willing to pay you your worth. I've only had to do one salary increase conversation in my career.
Yeah.
One.
Wow. Oh, with that said, thank you so much, Chichi.
Thank you, buddy.
It was really nice. I learned a lot. I'm usually with Chichi 2 times in a week, so we never get a chance to talk about something like this. So I'm very happy for you. Lastly, what do you want to say to the people?
What do I want to say to the people? Okay, if there's any young people who are thinking that there's something that is maybe awesome or spectacular about what I've done, there isn't. My point and my main objective, guys, is to just let you know that it takes you deciding and doing it, and you can do it. There's absolutely nothing special about me. I was fortunate, and I believe that I'm just a person who decided to capitalize on my opportunities, and that is how I've ended up where I am. Thank you. Beautiful.
That was Chichi, guys. You heard what she does. She is Gera Concon.
Managing Director of Concon.
Come on. So guys, if you want any professional, legal advice, talk to her. Sure. And I think I don't know what is the best way to communicate with you, email or direct number.
Email info at.
I'll put it on the description below. Okay. I don't wanna it like that. Anyways, keep well and God bless you.
Thank you. Same to you, buddy. Thank you so much.
Toodles.